Good evening, and my name is Constance Means, and I'm a member of SOS. The other members here present tonight are the board members, Gina Davis Morales, Lynn Farmer, and Holly Fingerly. Good evening to Howard White and Lee Langan. We have anyone else in the? Okay. Good evening to you all. We're going to start by welcoming you here. And Mr. White, you are the only candidate who responded to coming on tonight, to the invitation to come on tonight. So you're going to be solo. Isn't that a good thing? And we'd like to welcome you here. We do appreciate your response. That gives a great signal that you are sensitive and aware as a candidate of what your public deems important, and that's always a really good feeling. We don't know why the other candidates did not show, and they did not give us a reason, so we can't and we don't want to pretend that we know the reasons, but we do appreciate your effort to be here tonight to have a discussion with us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Let me say that I'd like to tell everyone here tonight a little bit about SOS. There've been a lot of questions about, well, who is this group? Who are you? We got started, as you know, working with the issues around High School District 227, Rich Township. And so we became passionate about what was going on in our community, not just at the school board level, but at several levels. So we're a grassroots group whose purpose it is to promote community that is informed, educated, and activated, to ensure well-educated, empowered electorate that will utilize that power of the vote to place in office well-vetted and qualified governmental officials who understand that they are in office as public service to serve the public, their electorate. And that's an important concept, especially coming out of these last 4 years, where we had the top of government, the very top seat of government, who seem to think that, you know, people want to be dictated to and that kind of thing. And so, like I said, that's our beginnings. That's what we have done. Moving along, we want to talk about rules of engagements. Now, we are a small group right now. We don't know who's going to join, but we do want to talk about these rules of engagements. We ask the candidates to arrive on time. Late arrivals will not be admitted. We don't have to worry about that because I think you're the only one who responded this evening. There will be an opportunity for everyone to log on up to 15 minutes before the forum start time. So that's kind of the way all of our forums are going to run. Candidates will be required to have their video or cameras on with full view of their person face, as there will be participants with visual auditory challenges that are hearing impaired and lip read. So we want to be conscious to support all of our citizenry who fall into that category. Audience and or candidates should mute their microphone while others are speaking. Next, candidates must arrive on time. Audience members should have their first and last names displayed on the video frame. If assistance is needed to modify the display name, alert the host verbally or through the chat function, because we want to actually know who we're talking to. We don't want phone numbers and that kind of thing. Please be respectful, polite, and courteous to everyone present during the forum. That's very important. And I know that we are passionate about these things, and so we can sometimes get caught up in those moments. Please tell us your name before you ask the candidate a question, preferably with your video camera on during the interaction. That would happen. So, please speak in clear, normal voice volumes throughout the form so that everyone may hear and understand your communications, as there will be participants with visual auditory challenges that are hearing impaired and lip read. We read that one. Please make certain you follow directions or the rules of proper decorum to the best of your ability. Under no circumstances will disruptive, rude, accusatory, or otherwise demeaning behaviors be tolerated. Participants behaving this way will be removed and not allowed to re-enter the event. Please speak, okay. Ask one question at a time. If you have multiple questions, please type them into the chat so that we can get them answered. After everyone has had their chance to ask one question, SOS will decide if follow-up is necessary, okay? Tonight, I bring you the esteemed Howard White, who is running for a trustee unopposed in the village of Olympia Fields. Welcome, Howard White.
Good evening.
Thank you.
How are you guys doing?
Great.
Thank you, Mr. White. Welcome to be here.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so what we want to do, we had some questions here. We didn't have the pleasure of reading your request to the your questions from our candidates form questionnaire. I guess you opted not to do that, and that's okay. But
If you want, I'm sorry. If you want to ask me now, I will gladly ask if those are pertinent to you.
okay. Well, we did do some work, and so we want to start off with asking you, Howard, to tell us about yourself.
Oh man,
Yeah.
You want the Cliff Notes version? Well, let me start with the more recent. So I'm a father of three. My oldest is 24 years old, just recently graduated from Morehouse. I have a daughter who is 15, who's at Macaulay, and a son who is 12, who's going to St. George and Tinley Park. And I'm married to the most awesome person I've ever met. She's, I don't know, I can't even begin to describe her, but we've been married now for 8 years. I met her shortly after I moved to Chicago. I've been in Chicago now since, December of 2011. Originally from Baltimore, Maryland. My work professionally, I'm involved in marketing. So right now I actually kind of have a couple of roles. My day job, I work as a senior manager for digital engagement for a software company called Sharewell based out of Colorado. I also have kind of my own marketing business that I've worked on for the last several years. Oh man, what else can I say? For me, I think what I want people to know about me, in addition to some of those highline items, is that this decision to run for public office has been not entered into lightly. I've actually had folks trying to encourage me to do it for probably the last 4 or 5 years. You know, I'm sure the question might come up, what motivates me in this? Yes. Quite simply, frustration at what I've seen, especially over the last couple of years. You know, probably to the last couple of years, you know, I was something of a news junkie, but I never really got myself in front of people who are making life-changing decisions for entire communities. And you know, why I drugged my foot on a decision to do this for the last 4 years or so. I think I just kind of got tired of, you know, wondering, you know, who was going to fix some of the things that I see are an issue. So I guess the only conclusion is the guy that I see every time I go in the bathroom and look in the mirror. You know, I just pray that God rides with me on this, because since I've decided to run everything ugly that I've envisioned about this business, I've already started to see. So, but I'm very much convicted in terms of not yielding to whatever this magic pixie dust is that lands on 9 out of 10 politicians that go in with good intentions and all of a sudden seem to forget what and why they're there.
You know, that's a great segue into this next question, because we want to ask you what are the top issues for you?
Whew. Oh man.
Let's make let's make it a little less daunting. Let's say pick 3 of them.
Pick 3.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for me, ultimately, you know, the village of Olympia Fields is a very unique community. And for me, I have literally fallen in love with this town. And I see it as an opportunity to kind of be a shining example of what a very diverse, primarily African-American community can be. I'm somewhat motivated by looking at what our communities specifically have done, or what has happened to them, going back as far as, you know, Tulsa. And I think there are so many potential hazards ahead for Olympia Fields that if we do not make the right moves moving forward, we could easily go the way of, you know, going towards a downward spiral. But to answer your question, like my top 3, you know, pillars in terms of why I'm running, in terms of what I'm looking to do. First and foremost, is we got to get people involved. You know, I've been bringing people together since I was 14. I was just telling my kids the other day, I threw my first house party when I was 14. So, you know, I've been doing stuff like that for a long time. And while this is not a house party, there are similar things that need to happen in order to make something special happen. And you got to get people to believe, that something is possible. I hear so often that people feel like, they just don't know what's going on. They don't feel listened to. And what that ends up leading to is apathy. So, you know, my number one thing is community engagement. Even if that means, you know, as an official, I'm doing it by myself in terms of interacting with people. You know, I recently, as part of my effort, because I know I don't necessarily have the name recognition as a couple of you folks that are on here right now, you know, I offered any resident to have a one-on-one conversation with me. And that's something that, as I thought about it, you know what, I'm going to continue to do that regardless. So that's one thing. The second thing is education. You may have noticed that when I listed where my kids go to school, it was not the school that's a mile and a half from my house. And to me, that is a travesty when you look at what this community Olympia Fields is, when this community, I don't know if it's still the case, but a few years ago, had the highest density of African Americans with post-secondary degrees, which means you obviously have a population here that values education, but most of us don't, that have kids, do not feel like we can send our kids to the school that 70% of our tax dollars go to. So that, my intent is to work what I can from this angle as a Olympia Fields resident, as Olympia Fields taxpayer, as a parent, to make sure that we have the absolute best options available to families here in the village. And thirdly is economic development. You know, we've got a high number of vacancies. It's gotten better, I think, over the last few years. But granted, the landscape has changed for a lot of small to medium-sized businesses. You know, COVID has just taken it to a whole nother level. You know, there were a couple of businesses that I know a lot of folks are real excited about coming to Olympia Fields that, you know, basically had to press pause. They still want to come. But right now they're just fighting for their own survival with their previous establishments. You know, so one of the things that I'm looking forward to doing is figuring out a way that as a village, as a government organization, how do we take what we're already doing, what we have been doing, to the next level in terms of finding creative ways to support small to medium-sized businesses. And to me, all three of these things are related to a certain extent. In Olympia Fields, you'll hear a lot of residents, myself included. I like nice places. I like Starbucks. Something of a bougie in that way, but you know, we want to have nice stores that kind of reflect, you know, how we see ourselves. But I think what people need to understand is that those types of businesses want to set up shop in neighborhoods where they know they have the type of customers that fit them. If we want to get those types of families moving in here en masse, those families are looking for quality education. I can tell you specifically in the last year that we actually had one family that literally showed up to our education commission. And that was part of their really looking into the consideration of moving here. They were trying to decide on a house they had picked here and one that they were looking at Flossmoor. And that's one I know of personally. And I've heard of two other similar stories where the couples decided, you know what, in fact, my in-laws as well, they were going to literally buy this house right up the street from me, but bought a house in Flossmoor. And it came down to the schools. So you want those types of businesses want customers that are families like those that decided not to come here. Those families decided not to come here because we don't have what folks are looking for in terms of quality schools. I'm sorry, that wasn't quick.
No. That's what we were here for, your honesty this evening, and thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Connie, I do have a couple of questions in the chat box that were sent to me directly. I can repeat the first one, and then we could rotate back and forth.
Okay.
One of the questions is, what do you think a good use of the Toll Time property would be? And I guess this goes with it. Were you in favor or in opposition of the proposed rehab facility at that site?
Oh, I definitely was opposed to that, unequivocally. I don't think well, first of all, I know for a fact most of our residents were not in favor of it. And, you know, at least in talking to some of our residents over here in the original village, you know, there's just a couple of concerns about that type of place coming into a primarily residential neighborhood. So to answer that question, yeah, I'm not saddened that did not, you know, move forward. In terms of what to do with it, wow. I mean, wouldn't it be nice to see a hotel pop up there? You know, I haven't really given any thought in terms of, you know, what I'd like to go there specifically. My main concern is, does it fit in line with the values that most Olympia Fields residents have? And I think if it's something that the community buys into as a whole, and it makes good fiscal sense in terms of whatever the arrangement is that they move in here, it's not going to sack us in the long term financially, then, you know, let's move forward with it. I think there's too many potential variations of what type of business can move in there. What I don't want to see, I don't want to see warehouses. You know, I don't want to see drug rehab centers. I don't want to see liquor stores. You know, so I think I could probably answer better what I don't want to see versus what I would like to see. So.
You got any more questions?
No, thank you for that. We do have a couple of more, but depending on if you'd like to rotate with the questionnaire questions, it's up to you if you had one that were.
So let's give the residents a chance. Let's
Sure.
clear their questions. Yeah.
So the next question in the chat was another direct question directly sent to me, so you don't see it in the chat. It's why did you choose to run for the village board versus running for one of the school boards?
Oh boy. That was not an easy decision. I think, as some of you know, that's probably where you met me, is in a fight with some of you guys up there. And I thought very long and hard on that over the summer. The reality is, I have some idea what it's going to take to get our school system moving in the right direction. I know at a minimum, you at least have to have some people that have the right mindset in terms of, even if you don't know something, I want to at least see some people that at least have enough sense to ask questions versus just rubber stamping. And I think if you look at the videos of some of the board meetings over the last few years, there just seems to be this, I don't know. I don't even know what to call it. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm digressing. But in the end, to really affect change, you need 4 votes. And, you know, there was one gentleman that I got really excited about for a minute because he, you know, he's somebody that I know has integrity. Someone that also has a strong educational background. And he and I were talking for a couple months over the summer. And for a while there, he said he was going to do it with me because it's the kind of situation that, quite honestly, I'm sure if I had a political coach, they probably would tell me not to say this, but I'm sorry. I'm going to call, you know, I call it like I see it. I am not going to enter into a snake pit without somebody to watch my back. And there was just no way I could go in there by myself and really affect the kind of change that I know needs to happen. So I decided to run for trustee because this is home. This would also give me a platform that I would not otherwise have. It still gives me an opportunity to affect you know, what happens with regards to our community at large, and possibly to actually start gaining some opportunities to really start exploring, you know, what options are available for taxpayers and residents of Olympia Fields. 2 years, who knows what'll happen.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can get a couple people on there now that I won't look at it as going in there and being potentially 1 against 6 or 5.
Yeah, it's important. Important.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for those. The next question is from Mr. Lee Langen. He asked, he says, Mr. White, thank you for attending. You're running unopposed. Will you represent the best interest of all the residents of Olympia Fields?
Yes, as best I can. I will throw in one caveat there. He said all. Not everybody has the same opinion on everything. What I can promise you is I'm a big listener. I'm a data-driven person. I try my best to look at all sides. I try my best never to purport to know any and everything. But what I will tell you is that I'm hell-bent on making sure that Olympia Fields can continue and flourish long-term without compromising our values.
Mr. White,
Thank you.
you spoke about a situation with the school board. You didn't want to be in a situation where you're going to be one against the majority. And so that was some of the basis for your decision. In the situation currently in the village, we have a situation very, very likened to that. We've seen over the last couple of elections, we've seen the candidates' ability to make their own decisions in the way, the manner in which you spoke of, from information as opposed to other kinds of arrangements. And we've seen that those candidates, those people in those trusteeship positions and in other positions in the village actually get pushed back severely on a lot of their independence. How independent and realistically so, how much of what you want to do as an independent, as a thinker, as a researcher, as a person who understands numbers and knows how to analyze them and come up with great solutions, how will you work with a more politicized group of people who feel like they need to rubber stamp everything that the leader says?
Oh my goodness. I have to admit, that's the part of this equation that if there's anything that worries me about that part, I recently told someone I resent the label of politician, but the reality is I'm putting my hat in the arena and guess what I get labeled. So, but I tell you what, in my corporate life, probably one of my biggest achievements was leading something of a culture change in a 60-year-old organization that had some really antiquated ways of doing things. At the end of the day, I'm going to have to stand on my principles, my values. As I recently told someone, I am not for sale. And I'm from Baltimore. You're not going to push me around. I don't care who you are. But I think the main thing is we got to keep the focus on what is best for the village. And granted, there's going to be some compromises. Granted, we're not going to get everything that we want. But in terms of pushback, I'm going to be guided by that. I'm going to speak up for what I believe. I'm going to make sure like I said earlier, my number one thing is I want to get residents engaged. And I think by doing that, I told somebody recently that one of the reasons why I think it's been so hard to get certain things moving in a positive direction is because I think people that have been trying to make some of these changes have missed a very important part of what moves those people, quote unquote, that are in power, the powers that be. And that is, you got to get the people behind you. You know, if you get the people behind you, if it makes sense to them, whatever the plan is, it's amazing how quickly folks that quote unquote run things and like to control things yield when they see a pile of people standing behind you that are vocal. Just look at what's happening in Homewood.
Yeah.
You know, so we've got to actively get residents, voters engaged to understand why these things matter to them. You know, I think just look at what happened in Georgia. Like, you know, I mean, I don't think anybody would have believed that what happened in Georgia this past presidential election, you know, well, I'm sure a few people believed it. Obviously, that's what happened, but you know, it's still something of a miracle. But that's because there were a small group of people there that realized that they had to go get, you know, your average person that's going to work every day that doesn't feel like they have the time or whatever to really dedicate to those things, to really rally behind and just do their small part. So at the end of the day, I'm going to be making sure that people know that I'm working for them. And I've got a couple of folks that, you know, I said, look, as I go into this, I need you guys to make sure that anytime it looks like that magic pixie dust is landing on my shoulder, to knock it off. So, you know, that's how I'm going into this. That's how I'm looking at trying to move the ball down the field. You got to work with people. There is going to be compromise, but I just think it comes down to being, you know, being honest, operating with integrity, and making sure you do not forget why you're there and who put you there.
Thank you. Our next question is also from Mr. Lee Langan. It is, what is your vision for our train station at 203rd Street?
My vision, oh man, you know, it would be nice to have like a town center or something. At least, you know, that's what I see. But what I don't know if it has happened yet is we've got residents that live on both sides of that train station. So, you know, while I might think it's nice to have like a little town center where you got lots of small shops, I haven't gone over and, you know, talked to the residents that are on Barbarian Street, the north side of my village, to find out, you know, what do you want to see here? Then on the other side, you've got another area of body of homes with people that live there. You know, I think that's what needs to happen first. Like somebody, you know, you asked me what I think might go in that space. But I got to tell you, as somebody that loves the water, I can't tell you how many times I've gone up by that pond early in the morning because that's the closest body of water to me. So if it stays the way it is, I'm okay with it. But, you know, I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to, you know, what do the residents want, if anything? And then let's see what we can make happen. You know, because again, you know, those folks bought those homes adjacent there, and it looked that way. You talk about building something, all of a sudden, you know, especially the folks that have houses that face the pond, right? It's like all of a sudden you want to stick a bunch of stuff over here. I got to see all these shops and maybe a parking lot or something, another parking lot. Yeah, I just would want to start with, you know, finding out, you know, what the residents think, finding out, you know, if what they're thinking is feasible. And if folks are really behind the idea of developing that area, and again, if it makes good economic sense, then let's go for it. But I haven't done those surveys or had any conversations with residents, especially in that area, in terms of what they might want to do with that real estate.
Let's talk a little bit about the concept that you raised several points here. And that's about the concept of transparency, community participation. In all earnest, honoring those kinds of necessary components to decision making in government. What would you do differently? What would you like to see change about what is currently in existence at our village level, where participation and transparency are concerned? What would you like to see changed?
Well, I think in terms of transparency, so from what I've seen, especially like with the financial transactions, most of that information is accessible. What I'd like to see with regards to participation is, are we necessarily doing the best job that we can to make sure that residents can participate and be made aware of, especially the public hearings and public meetings. They're called public for a reason. So, I think there is some sentiment out there that there's some challenges. There's some opportunities to do better in that area. I think it would be something of a oxymoron for me to talk about community engagement and then want to continue anything which the public feels is restrictive to them. I know there are opportunities to leverage various forms of technology, even such as this, to make sure that people can even if it's just participate in terms of being able to see live what's going on. I think what I have to also kind of testify to is that, going into this, there's honestly a lot I already don't know. I've got a stack of books on the way from Amazon right now, trying to get ready. Because I just believe that you got to try your best to prepare. I think it's one thing to come in motivated, have some ideas, but what they say, the devil's in the details. So there are some things that, like really recently, different things are being brought to me, like, did you know about this? And it's kind of funny because I think the second that you run, people kind of expect you to know everything. I'm like, wait a minute, just a second ago, I was just like you. I was crazy enough to say I was going to do this. That didn't instantly I didn't instantly figure out everything just because I made that decision. But, so I think, I think in that engagement with the community, that'll allow me to get a better read on what people are seeing as trouble spots or opportunities where we could do better, right? Which is one reason why I came here, because I think with these questions, it gives me some kind of gauge on, what people are thinking about versus what I think they're thinking about. So, I will just tell you that I'm in favor of transparency that, aligns with, all normal standards of government body conduct. Obviously there are some situations that pop up where, it might not, like if it's a disciplinary situation, HR situation where, taxpayers' dollars are involved, but I'm not sure if the public has a right to sit down and hear somebody's, review or something like that. I don't know. But, I think as long as we operate within standard protocols in terms of what people expect, I think at a minimum, that's what we should be able to provide for people that voted for us, and or pay our tax. If you're administration, then pay your salaries.
Thank you
Are
for
there any
that.
more questions?
Yes, there's let me see, just above. So Holly, your last question about transparency, I think Connie covered. Okay. So next question is from Marla Johnson. She asks, will you support the continuing expansion of the charter school, understanding that it is contributing to the decline of School District 227, which has a campus that resides in Olympia Fields?
No. I think right now, in terms of, I'm not really in favor of expanding necessarily anything with regards to education, except the population of people that are running things that give a damn. That's the only population I want to expand with regards to education. We need more people that give a damn about what's happening with these kids to be expanded. Right now, I think there needs to be a holding pattern on any quick decisions about any major changes, because we've got to figure out something that's going to work, that's going to be viable for a long time, and work for all of the community, not just part of the community, where not every child may not necessarily have access to that quality education. So yes, they do a wonderful, awesome job. But I'm not going to say right here, right now, oh yeah, that's what we need to do. Because if the option is if I have another family that comes to one of our meetings and, let's say the charter school doubles its capacity, right? Is there still going to be a lottery to get in there? So if I have a potential new resident coming here and will I be able to, should I say, well, your odds of getting your kids in just double. Why can we not have that quality of education across the board?
Public, totally public, yeah.
Because man, I got the brochure the other day. They are doing a bang up job. And sometimes I wish the folks that are over there running it, you want to expand? I got a couple schools you can take over. Yeah, if we could go that far, I'd be okay with that. But right now, I think we need to look at what all the options are. I think we need to look at, all right, if you're an existing resident, does that benefit someone that really values high quality education? Are they guaranteed to have that as an option? Does expanding that barely just increase their odds? If I buy 100 lottery tickets and, then next week I'll get 200, well, my odds didn't necessarily double statistically, So if there was a way that I thought that it was going to be more accessible to all parents that wanted their kids in there versus just a lottery, I love what the school is doing. I mean, it's awesome, but I just think, that quality of education needs to be made available to everyone that wants it. And I don't think you need to, cross your fingers and hope that my kid can get in there. So.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Mhm.
The next, so Holly Fingerly made a comment saying your humility and honesty are refreshing. Howard, we are grateful that you stood up and threw your hat in the ring.
Thank you.
And her question is next. Do
Mhm.
you favor a full-time economic development person, or do you see it as a part-time position?
For which body?
Olympia
Holly?
Fields, government.
Oh, Olympia Fields government?
Mhm.
That's a good question. I think, you know, I really don't know if the economies of scale are there to justify it for a village our size. Um, it's ironic, it's, economic development. I'd say if it made economic sense, then yeah, like, I mean, that person's going to collect a salary along with everything else that goes with that head count. And I think that, it's one of those things where, I could only say if it made sense to do so. I can't say, no, I wouldn't be against it at all, against it no matter what. But I think if it made sense to do so, then yeah, I think that, that's something that, could possibly benefit us. But it's one of those things that, it's a new question to me. And again, like I would approach everything, if it made sense to do that, then, it's not necessarily something I would fight, but, it's just one of those things. I guess a TBD to be determined whether or not, it really makes sense.
Thank you. That completes all the questions in the chat box. So Connie, if you wanted to go back to the questionnaire or anything else.
I do. Howard, what do you think you have in common with your running mates?
It's a very good question. They're all the same age as my dad. I'm kidding. No, they're not. Kelvin's not. Kelvin's closer to my age. Man, one of the things that I have grown to really appreciate about these gentlemen is this passion that they have for making sure that Olympia Fields stays keeps that not just that image, but the values that this village has collectively. And I mean, they are very dedicated to that. And that's something that I definitely admire about them. And I think it also gives me an opportunity to learn. I mentioned I'm very data driven. Sterling Burke, who is an engineer by trade. I've got two parents that are engineers, and he is definitely a data-driven person. So that's something that I definitely can respect. And I think that dedication to Olympia Fields, the focus on making decisions where the numbers add up, and make sense for the village overall. Those are two things that I think I definitely share with them, at least from a political standpoint, in terms of working with them for the village.
Then let me ask you to reflect on what are some of the differences.
Some of the differences. Well, I already alluded to one, right? But that's fine. I think some of the differences is, I think I'm a little bit more of a creative. I like to tell people I feel like I'm somewhat of a rare breed of a left and right brain person. one of the unique differences between that I've observed with Sterling Burke and myself is he's great, one-on-one, engaging with people. Sometimes I'm oddly enough, a little slow to do that. I rather work with groups. So I think that's something that might be a little bit different. I think that part of it, I think just the idea that at least how I like to approach things is I want to make sure that I'm bringing a sense of what's the word I'm looking for? I think a variety of input in terms of really leveraging. And I think the thing is that sometimes that slows you down, which I think I can understand to a certain extent why somebody might operate a different way, especially when they feel like, all right, they've got their charter, they got their mission. I know what I need to do. I'm going to get after it. And sometimes it can slow you down. There have been studies about, effective group sizes and all that, right? It's like the more people you bring into something to try to make a decision, the harder it gets to get something done, the longer it takes to get something done. But I think I still kind of lean towards, getting a little bit more people involved. But I will say this, when a decision's been made, I don't like to let things hold me back. So I will say that that's something I think I definitely have in common, with the team. Is like, and maybe that's what might be a little bit different is because, I'm coming in, somewhat new to this. So, a lot of, what has to be done, they've already been hands-on. I've been involved from the outside, but they actually already have been doing it. And it shows. But I think just, the differences I think are not insurmountable at all. I think it's just that whole data-driven creative type of thing and how you approach things. And, we'll see how things go as time progresses. But I do aim, like I said earlier, I want to make sure that along the way, I'm staying actively engaged in my ear to the street, so to speak.
I have a question in the chat box, if that's okay.
Yes.
From Marla Johnson, as a trustee, what is your plan to attract younger families to Olympia Fields?
Improve the schools, better school options. That's it. That is it. Like I said, I've got my in-laws, have two girls. Had the one family come to Economic Development Commission. Had my own, this house right here. At one point in time when our kids grew out of Arcadia, we were this close to moving because of the schools, nothing else. That's what it comes down to. It really comes down to the schools. The data shows that is the second most important reason to families with kids other than the price of the home. And you've got families that have decided, man, if I can get my kids into a good school, then we'll downsize. So for a lot of families, the quality of the schools is number one priority. Other than that, I think we might be able to present what some of the options are for families in terms of whether it's the charter school or, area private schools. But isn't it a shame that you've got to feel like you've got to somewhat hide the public school that you're dumping 10, 15, 20? I know some folks paying $24,000 in property taxes. And, at least for the high school portion of that, when you're talking about trying to attract families, it's kind of like, yeah, don't look at that car. Don't look at that car over there. Here, look at this one right here. It's just, I just don't know what else. I don't think there's anything else based on everything that I've learned and studied and found that is more important than good quality schools.
And you're talking about the schools, and we're talking about the survival of Olympia Fields around that notion of family. And so there's so much the parks, the park district, and there's a lot that goes into what makes a community very family friendly, walkable, family friendly, livable. And that's a lot to be on a plate. But let me move along to another issue. I'm just going to say the word infrastructure to you.
Okay.
And I want you to think about, when you drive through the village, what you see in the way of roads, the conditions of our roads, the cleanliness of the village itself, and that goes into beautification. What do you hope to accomplish to improve on on infrastructure and on beautification? As those the things kind of, when we walk out of our home, that's what we see. You look and you see a crumbling road, or you look and see a well-maintained road. You know what I'm saying? And so,
well, I got to tell you, so where I'm at in Original Village, I know that I think that was this year or within the last year or so, all the roads between Kedzie and Governors and over here in Suburban Woods, and I think Vienna Woods got repaved. Now, I'm not sure about every single road in the village, but I know over here the roads are pretty good. But I think to answer your question is I think there's some opportunities in terms of, especially what the pass-through traffic sees, right? I was just driving down Walmer today, and it looked like a car had gone through the fence over there. I don't know, I think it's Traditions, but right over there across the street from DP. And I don't know when it happened, but, it's things like that are contradictory to, who we say we are, I think. If you're leaving stuff in disrepair. So I think it's a matter of, okay, if it's land, road, obviously the roads, I think are from what I've seen so far, there's been a lot of efforts to get those done. Like I said, this whole area over here just got repaved. We've got a brand new sidewalk a few years ago. But I think just in terms of like some of the general aesthetics, I don't know if it means HOAs having to be held accountable for, maintaining their HOA. If it's something that the village is supposed to be responsible for, then I want to find out, okay, why haven't we addressed that? I want to make sure, I know our public works guys are pretty responsive. I just want to make sure that, Olympia Fields looks like what we say we are, aesthetically as well. So, it's been some things like, they just, the administration just developed this grant where they're giving each of the HOAs some additional money to kind of improve some of the aesthetics for the, the gateways and so forth. But I think overall, it's like, man, let's make sure that if somebody's passing through here, they don't see something in Olympia Fields that doesn't jive with who we say we are. Whether it's grass not cut, which I don't think is a problem because I see the guys out here cutting the grass, pretty often. But I think to kind of find out about those solutions, what those issues are, if we're not listening to residents or getting feedback from residents about, this issue over here or this issue over here, then those problems will likely linger. I will tell you that my dealings with, at least with our public works department, those guys have been awesome. I don't know if you guys know, his name was Rich. He retired. I really miss him. The guys drive past my house literally every day going over to the storage place over here. So, I think at the end, it's if there are areas that are not being addressed, do we have the means by which to receive that information and make sure that there's follow-up? Like, I don't want to see stuff going into a black hole. At my job, when my clients request something, it goes into a queue. We make a dashboard, and it's like you see all the requests, and the customer knows at all times. All right, where's my request? What's the status of? So that's the kind of visibility and transparency and access that I think it's not difficult to roll out or integrate that type of technology so that, we know what's in the pipeline with regards to work that needs to get done.
In line with that, the infrastructure, and I coupled it with beautification deliberately because there are two things going on in the village when you ride through, and I encourage you to do that. Go east and then come back around and just circumvent that 2.9 miles. There's a lot of trash, and that's been a problem. That's been a problem. When we look at the salaries that are paid to folks to do this work, it's rather frustrating for many of us as taxpayers. Like you said, we pay the highest taxes in the country out in the Southland. And so you want more bang for your buck. And there's a lot of resistance. There's been a lot of resistance and push and pull to that. More resistance than I think needs to be done. I'd like to see more energy put into proactive kinds of things we can do to really look at our village and improve it without having to tell the residents. I was told at one meeting you can always get a broom and get out there and but look at the money I'm paying. I'm paying all this money. So then I ask you to do a street cleaning, and I'll tell you when the last time Main Gate was cleaned was in October 31st, 2019. Okay, and before that, it had been 7 years before that. So these kinds of things and patterns, I think that just come up to snuff, maybe meet with the presidents of the HOAs periodically. We've never had a president's meeting where we constantly are feeding into that, feeding into the trustees to kind of keep you, kind of give you a good idea of what's going on. I want to switch gears to policing in our village, and I want to get your take on what you see as working, 3 things that are really working well, and 3 things that need much improvement.
I think one of the things that could improve, I'd like to see more interaction with our officers on a personal level. I don't know what that looks like. I'll tell you that over here in Original Village, pre-COVID, one of the things that we would do is when we would throw our picnic, we invite the officers and they would come. But recently, I actually was walking down 207 and there's an officer that I'd never even seen him before, and I've actually had a couple of guys over my house, more than once. So you would think with a village this size, we might be able to get even just a introduction. So like, hey, this is Officer so-and-so, just started working in the village. So if you see him, say hi or something like that, just an introduction. For the most part though, the guys are great. I've like I said, I'll flag them down. Instances where there was an issue. The guys that we have are great. I don't, in terms of what I've seen, our guys are Johnny on the spot. And I'm saying this from personal experience. Like if there's been something I call, they're there. If there are other things that are that, where there's some opportunities to improve, then by all means, please share it with me. But, again, I'm coming in based off of my own experience. So, that's one thing that I know that, the guys are definitely on top of it from what I've seen. So if there are other things, and I think it'll be one of those things that I definitely be willing to explore and try to figure out, what the problem is and what might need to happen to address it.
Do you see value in a community policing board that comes out of the community that works with trustees on policing and improving and getting more bang for our buck and value out of those relationships?
Well, I mean, for a village our size, I think what we have is actually pretty decent with the Public Safety Commission. There are citizen volunteers that are on that board, on that commission, I'm sorry. So I know that from a community level, we've got resident participation in terms of that interaction between the police department, safety, and residents.
If I might suggest, we've been doing questions for about an hour, and I just wanted to give our audience as well as Mr. White a chance. If we wanted a 5-minute break, we can just kind of vote on it. If we'd like to take a 5-minute break and come back, if we have intentions to go past 8:30 into 9 o'clock. Of course, we have plenty of questions. We can keep you here all night. But we want to be
well, I'm going to need another bottle of water.
Yeah, so if it's okay with everybody, Lee, Cherie, Jameer, Marla, if it's okay with everyone to take a 5-minute break, I'll put a timer on the screen and we'll go ahead and use the washroom or get a drink of water, whatever we need to do, and we'll come right back.
Okay. All right.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
welcome back.
Whew,
I
need
believe
that water.
we have
Needed that water. Needed that water.
questions answered in the chat box, so wherever you'd like to begin. Or-
Okay, we'll move along. I do have questions about stormwater management. That's a biggie for the village. And lastly, we're going to tie in the concerns around water, how much we have to pay for water, and that kind of those kinds of issues. What do you know about the stormwater management issue in the village? And tell me what your wisdom is regarding maybe finding some solutions to that.
Yeah, I'm quite intimately familiar with stormwater issues.
Sounds like somebody's basement flooded.
I wish I could throw up some pictures on here, just as a for instance. So it turned into a family project this past summer. I've installed now 3 French drains in my yard. Now the one that we did this summer, and it turned into a weed because I don't know if you guys have ever put in French drains. You've actually it's got to go down like an inch every 10 feet.
Yeah.
Well, where I needed the water to go was going uphill. so that meant, that meant digging down further every so 10 feet that we went back towards our fence. So yeah, I'm intimately familiar with stormwater issues in a village. I know that their administration recently, I think, put forward a special grant for residents to apply that might be experiencing some issues. But I think overall, man, you're talking about a big project, because when I look at like just my house and where my house sits on the block, we're kind of like at the low end of the block. So all the water comes down this way.
Yeah.
So, that's one of those things where it's like, I can't tell you I've got the answer. I can tell you what I've done personally.
Mm-hmm.
I no longer have water coming in my basement. I do know that.
Yeah, that's a good
but it also was a good way for me to lose 20 pounds doing all that digging. Yeah, but I think that's one of those. That's a massive project, and I think that's one of those things where it's like, if the surveys have been done and we have found that, I'm sure we all have heard it living here in Olympia Fields. We've got neighbors, or you've experienced it yourself. I think it would be worth exploring what options are available to address it. I don't know if that has been done. I would be shocked if it hasn't in all these years, because it's not like we just started having water problems, last year. Just here, I think one of the things that would help, like on this block, would be like if a swale was installed between where I'm at on Hellenic and the folks on Greenwood. But like I said, I do know that there's a swale project that's been announced, some work that's going to be done. I can't answer for sure just how expansive that project is, but I do know that that's something that has been looked at. So it's one of those things is I think I'll have more obviously we'll have more visibility into it, once I get there, to be able to actually give you probably the kind of answer you're looking for. What I will tell you is I promise you, if you give me a couple of months, we can put it on the calendar. I can follow back up with you and let you know what I found out. But right now, I think overall it sounds like a massive project based off of what I've seen for myself and what I've heard from several, residents and talking to, the guys in public works, it's not something just unique to a couple people here in the village.
It's not, yeah. I think, what are your priorities for your first 100 days?
Learn some more and listen.
Learn some more and learn some more.
No, I mean, really, it's I realize it already is that when you're on the outside, sometimes we wonder why stuff doesn't happen like that. I know I see it in corporate, and I think it's probably worse in government. Stuff takes time. I want to do more of this, more listening. Like, I typically am not the type to just jump into something, just because it's my priority. But, it's not, after April 6th, it's not about me. I've got, 2182 residences and 157 businesses who I'm going to be tasked with looking out for everybody's interests. So my priorities, what I might see as my priorities, they're mine. They're not for the collective. So really, I think it would be, unless there was some type of mandate right now, like where everybody's like, we got to fix this right now. And I've heard about it. Well, let me change that. There's one thing that I think that I could start working on right away. And that's on making sure that I'm accessible and trying to do my best to make sure the entire governing body is accessible. I think, again, as if people start to feel apathetic when they feel disconnected and powerless. And when you have an apathetic population, over time, that does not bode well for your community at all. So that's the only thing that I can really see myself saying in the first 100 days. Quite honestly, like I said, I got these books on the way. I'll pick up the phone in a minute. Call Mr. Pennington, call Kelvin, ask them questions. I've been doing it already. So the good thing is the folks that are there now are very, even before I got into this, have been willing to talk and kind of educate, fill me in on certain things. But again, I think something happens, when you actually get access to the books, right?
Transparency.
Right. Like when you're responsible for reviewing certain things, you really start to see what are the inner workings. And, as of right now, I don't have that access, have not had that access. On certain things, yes, but on other things, no, because it hasn't been my job to. So.
Wow. I'm out of questions, believe it or not. And so I would like to ask you, Mr. White, to talk to your voters who are here to tell us some final thoughts on where you've been, where you're going, and how can your public and how can your base be of assistance to you in this monumental task that you've taken on?
First and foremost, get up, get involved, even if it's just picking up the phone. Please take me up on my offer with regards to, contacting me to discuss what your issues are. you know, it's important to me that, again, we need everyone. Like the challenges that we face, not just here in Olympia Fields, but with our neighbors and in the Southland overall. You know, my challenge to everyone, to every candidate, don't go into this thinking that you're just going to fight this on your own. Engage your public, engage them, get them behind you. Make sure, you know, I want to make sure that, again, like I mentioned earlier, I got some things that I have seen that I think we can do better at. But before I really start worrying about what's important to me, I want to make sure I've gotten a good amount of feedback from residents about what's important to them. And the more people I talk to, I most likely will start to see some consistencies, some repeating patterns of where things can be improved or what things might need to be reassessed in terms of what we've been doing. You know, so you know, I just really invite people. I don't care if you're in Olympia Fields or not. Please take the time to do what you can as voters, as residents, to get involved. You know, not just in your local government, especially with schools. You know, take as much time as you can to learn as much as you can about what these issues are, because most of these issues are seldom black and white. You know, it's like the question about Southland earlier. You know, I didn't like that was a yes or no question. You know, it depends, you know, and reality, everything is shades of gray. So, you know, for me, like I said, I want to go in. I've got these three things that are important to me. A couple of them I've already been working on, being on a couple of the commissions that I'm on. You know, but the community engagement part, I think being in that seat, you know, it makes it more important. It puts me in a better position to be able to engage people and actually be able to, hopefully to some extent, affect positive change for the community. So, you know, those are the two things, right? Get involved, learn as much as you can. And for those of us that are going into office, you know, we gotta start meeting people where they are and getting them involved.
So I wholeheartedly agree. What are we doing with the upcoming forum calendars? Are we going to do anything with that this evening? SOS?
Yeah, I can display it if we are
Okay.
ready to
We do
wrap
have
up.
more forums coming up. We try to do we try to do these forums in terms of like trustees and
Mhm.
presidents and school boards and those kinds of things. So we tried to put them in a category where those questions could be relevant to that, rather than everybody running for office and we all get to ask questions.
Right.
So we can kind of focus. But I am certainly very appreciative, and I speak for SOS when I say this. First of all, you're running for office and being so clear-headed and clear-viewed about it. I am very appreciative that you responded this evening. We were concerned about candidates. This is a new vetting system that we're trying out here. It's unlike any of the others that are currently existing, but we want to give people a very good look at the candidates. We want to help promote your candidacy and voter interaction in each of the candidates. We want people to really be engaged in this process, and so that you won't have the problem of not knowing who you can reach out to as a candidate. You can't do it. You're right. You can't do it all by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Man is an Lee is asking a question. He said, Mr. White, you signed on to run on a slate. And can you finish it? You went away.
Sure. This is from Lee Langan. Mr. White, you signed on to run on a slate. What happens if the head of your slate loses the election?
From my standpoint, nothing changes. I'm still going in. I'm going to do what I got to do. Yeah. So, you know, at the end of the day, I'm for Olympia Fields. What's best in the best interest of for Olympia Fields. And again, you know, this is a dirty business. I will honestly tell you that almost every other day for the last month, I have questioned why the heck I've made this decision. But thanks to some folks that believe in me, couple of looks in the mirror, you know, I've never backed down from anything. And, you know, I've gotten a little bit of taste of the quote unquote Chicago style politics lately. And, you know, so it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't, you know, if I had to go in there and it was the situation that I was thinking that I might run into in 227, once I made that decision that I'm going to do this, then I'm all in. You know, so I'll tell you guys again. I don't know what has happened to people after they get elected. I've had this conversation personally with my family. I'm like, you know, we've always been strong, and I'm counting on them if they see even the slightest sign of me wavering based on who they know me to be and who I've been since I was young. Yeah, I'm not for sale. I'm not here to play no games. So, and folks might want to operate straight around me because, no, I'm not going to be playing those games for any of those folks that might be into trying to figure out how to cut deals for their friends and their own interests and all that kind of stuff. Nah, I'm not looking to move up to some state senate or whatever role. You know, I got a good job. I got a beautiful wife. I don't know if you can see her back there. She's smarter than she is beautiful. I don't need for anything. What I need for is to make sure that we keep this community afloat and being able to sustain itself long term. That's the only reason I'm doing this. The only reason. So if they don't know me now, they will. They'll find that out. Yeah. Not everybody is gonna succumb to, you know, being enticed with certain things and whatever it is that happens to these people. I don't know. But I ask you guys just like I asked my family, if you see me slipping, please remind me. Because again, I keep saying this. I swear I don't know what happens to these people. It's like, what happened to you? So, yeah. That's what's going to happen if my candidate loses in whatever fantasy world that happens in.
Well, if we wanted to, if that was the last question, which I think it might have been, I can put up the schedule for upcoming events, and we can kind of go from there to finish closing.
We can also talk. Want the participants to know there is an online survey to kind of get us for us to get a sense of how well we did, what we could do better, and we want you to be as honest as you possibly can with that. We're not going to get our feelings hurt. We take this information and grow from it. We want to establish this type of process as a process in the Southland for vetting and selecting candidates that have the people's best interests in heart, which is what we're, you know, one of our missions, and it's the most current course for right now because we're in an election cycle. But I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight and attending this forum. if there's, the group is never too small, it's never too large, it's never too anything. We want to make sure, we want to make certain that we have an informed public, and if we have to do it one person at a time, we're determined to do that. Our next forum will occur tomorrow, 6:45 to 7, and it will also be, it'll be Zoom supported, much like this one tonight. Times are 7 to 9 for the actual event. You will be allowed into the event at 6:45 and to start, but spread the word with your friends and your associates, because it is a way for the candidates who are here for you to get your message out as well and get your public informed. Thank you again, Howard. Thank you for doing what you do, and thank you for being who you really are. And you asked the question, what happens to these people? I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. And I know we all wish you much success in what you sacrificed to do.
Thank you.
You know, and SOS will stand with you and by you and support you like we, as much as we can. If you let us know what we can help you with. I know that we have some vital connections here. We have vital connections here already with the president's group that Lee Langan is president of, and he's doing a great job at getting us together, getting us meeting, keeping us focused. And so I'm suggesting that, you know, these connections be made because it's vital to the community, it's healthy for the community. And I don't expect you or Lee to save this community by yourselves. So we've got to be involved. And we don't expect that of any of the communities that we will support and that we will try to assist, and any of the candidates who are running. We don't want to leave you out there and make you think that we're out here to trick you, and we're not. We're only out here to promote your strengths, because we're all human. And that's our goal. But thank you again. It's good seeing you.
Likewise. We got
No
to
more-
get back.
No more Starbucks.
No more Starbucks. Oh man. No, I want to thank you ladies for having me. It's good seeing you guys. You know, and I do appreciate what, if any, support that you know, you might offer me. You know, I think it was mentioned I'm running unopposed. Somebody recently told me that because I'm running unopposed, you know, I don't have no challenges. Like,
They don't quite understand.
it's not about getting in, it's about what's going to happen when I get in. So, you know, I'm definitely going to be, you know, reaching out to you guys to obviously get, you know, feedback and input. And I think if there's one thing that I would like to ask of you guys is, you know, again, well, two things. Yes, please do help keep me on the straight and path, protect me from the magic pixie dust. And number two is, man, and, you know, let's try to work together, you know, where appropriate in terms of really trying to galvanize, you know, our residents, making sure that they're informed, and trying to make sure that, you know, they know that, at least as it relates to Olympia Fields, they've got at least one outlet that is not willing to just listen, but to try to figure out what can be done. So.
Okay, well, that closes us out for this evening. Is there anything that Jeannie you'd like to say? Or?
Just the feedback survey. If you look in the, well, first we can kind of look at what we're looking at the screen here. Just a reminder of that next event tomorrow. And you can register for that by going to bit.ly/OF president. That's for tomorrow's Olympia Fields presidential candidate forum. And this recording will be on a YouTube channel. That link will be shared via email, as well as on our social media, of course, like our Facebook page, join the group on Facebook. Our email is listed here. And then I'll stop the share so that we can kind of go back to see our chat box. If you can go to the bottom and navigate to your chat function, you'll see the chat box on the side, and I posted the link in there for the feedback survey. We would welcome every piece of feedback that we can get so we can make sure we keep improving and doing what everyone wants and needs for these virtual forums. So we appreciate all of that. I think that's it. Thank you, Mr. White. We appreciate your participation. And Lee, Marla, and Jameer, thank you. Lynn had some tech issues. She had to hop off. And I think Cherie also spent quite a bit of time with us tonight. So we thank her. And of course, thank you to our wonderful host, Ms. Constance Means, and Holly and Lynn. We did a lot of work to get this going, and we appreciate your time tonight, because it's a time commitment. We know that, and we appreciate your participation.
All right. Thank you all. See you all soon.
Yes.
All
Have
right,
a great night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.